Hi everyone and welcome to the third video of my TRND Bot review series. In this video, I'm going to cover the data and results from testing TRND Bot over the second week of October, the 12th to 16th. Stay tuned. When I first approached TRND and got their permission to make these videos, they asked if I was interested in becoming an affiliate. I declined because I honestly half expected TRND to be a scam and I didn't want my affiliation with TRND to make this review seem biased. But after testing TRND for 2 weeks and getting shockingly good results, I've now decided to become a TRND affiliate. TRND does not see these videos ahead of time, tell me what to say about them, or penalize me for sharing unfavorable results. My review and opinions are still entirely my own and based solely on the data I collect. The only thing that changes is I will now get compensated if you subscribe to TRND using my affiliate link in the description at no additional cost to you. With that being said, this video is for educational purposes only, and the views presented here are entirely my own. This video is going to be structured similarly to the previous video, however I will not be repeating analysis you've already heard. Additionally, I will be comparing this week's data to the previous week's data throughout the video. And if at any point you need clarification on the strategy I'm using or the scope of this study, check out my introduction video linked on screen and in the description below. Here's what the S&P 500 looked like over the course of the second week on a 30-minute time frame. On the 12th and the 15th, the SPY trended beautifully, and on the 13th and 16th, the SPY was flat for most of the day. Over the 5 trading days, TRND Bot signaled a total of 40 trades on the S&P 500, an average of 8 trades a day, which is similar to the first week's average of 7 trades a day. Here's the distribution of signals over the 5 days. Surprisingly, TRND only signaled 5 trades on the 15th, below average, which I suspect is due to how well the SPY trended that day. My guess is that under calmer market conditions, TRND would signal more similarly to how it did on the 15th than nearly any other day we've seen so far. Inversely, you can see that TRND Bot signaled the most trades on the 12th. The reason for this is because I wasn't able to trade on the 12th and had to use TradingView's replay tool feature to collect the data instead of collecting the data live like I normally do. The replay tool does not support Heikin-Ashi candles and therefore automatically makes price action less trendy and harder for TRND Bot to read because TRND Bot had to read normal candles. I didn't know this would be an issue beforehand, but by the end of the study, the data from the 12th will account for only 1/22nd of the total data I've collected. So the small differences on this day compared to the rest of the days will smooth out. I definitely won't be using the replay feature for backtesting again for this reason. When compared to last week, the results are in agreement. TRND signals less on clearly trending days and signals more on choppier or flatter days. Of the 40 trade signals, 19 trades resulted in loss and 21 resulted in profit, a 52.5% win rate overall. This is an enormous increase of 9.5% from last week, which I suspect is largely due to more trending days this week, but also because the first trend of the day continued for much longer than it did the previous week, therefore giving TRND more opportunity to hit the first profit target or better before the next signal change. This is a good indicator that TRND Bot's win rate is directly proportional to the amount of days with trends, if not also the strength and length of those trends. The outcome of these signals were 43% hit profit target 1 or better, 57% were closed for either profit or loss due to a signal change, 0% were closed at the end of the day, and just like last week, 0% hit their stop loss. Interestingly, the percentage of trades closed due to a signal change were almost identical between the 2 weeks, surprisingly consistent given the difference in win rate. This week, the average loss was $136, the average profit of the profit target 1 strategy was $216, and the average profit of the 50-50 strategy was $252. Like last week, we're continuing the theme of the average loss being about half of the expected loss at the stop loss, which makes sense considering no trades have hit their stop loss yet. Despite TRND's improved win rate trading the SPY this week, the average loss actually went up, but the average wins both went up too. I suspect all of this is due to less chop over this week, meaning that when TRND changed its signals to indicate a trend in the other direction, it was more of a genuine trend and price ended up moving further against the open position until TRND signaled to close it, thus losing or making more money. The actualized reward to risk ratios were 1.59 to 1 for the profit target 1 strategy and 1.85 to 1 for the 50/50 strategy. Both are similar to last week's, just slightly lower. And neither is bad because they're both still above 1.5 with a better than 50% win rate. When looking at the time of day data, the results tell a surprisingly different story than last week. This week, there were a lot of signals in the morning, like I expected, but also more towards the end of the day, which I didn't expect because we didn't have them last week. Like I hypothesized, early morning volume and volatility are clearly responsible for the increase in signals between 9:30 to 10:30. However, I'm not certain as to why all of a sudden there were more signals at the end of the day this week. One guess I have is that as we draw closer to the election, there's more activity towards the end of the day as large firms reallocate their portfolios. Either way, both sets of data differ at the end of the day, and I look forward to analyzing the entire month in my final video. The win rates by time of day varied a lot more this week than last week. You'll notice that the first 3 hours had about a 60% win rate, which is really good, especially considering it was averaged over many trades. The first 3 hours were similarly consistent last week, but had a lower win rate on average. 12:30 to 1:30 is where things get weird and the win rate plummets. Last week, this time period had the highest win rate, so I'm not really sure what events or price action could have resulted in such a big difference. Either way, I think we'll have to wait to see how the whole month fared to get the full picture. So now for the total profit for the second week of October trading the SPY. By risking $250 at the stop loss using TRND Bot, you would have profited $1,959 using the profit target 1 strategy and $2,705 using the 50/50 strategy. Even though the reward to risk ratios decreased this week, the profit target 1 strategy returned more than double the profit this week than last week, and the 50/50 strategy profited double as well. Here's a graph of the week's running P&L. The graph starts with a weekly profit of 0 and begins on the 12th, the first day of the second week. You can then see how the P&L changed over the course of the week. Interestingly, the profit target 1 strategy actually lost money on the 12th, whereas the 50/50 strategy was profitable every single day. I suspect the diminished returns on the 12th are due to me using TradingView's replay tool, another unintended consequence of not using live data and Heikinashi candles. Surprisingly, the 14th and the 16th were the most profitable days for both strategies, despite the price action on both days appearing uneventful. Both strategies came out profitable by the end of the week, just like last week, and I'm very excited to see what the total P&L over the whole month looks like at the end of this series. If you've enjoyed the video so far, please like the video and subscribe to my channel to follow along with these results. That concludes the SPY's data and analysis for week 2. Now, on to Tesla. Here's what Tesla looked like over the course of the second week on a 30-minute time frame. The first thing that stands out is Tesla was trading within a range, especially during the first 2 and last 2 days. On the morning of the 14th, there was a high volume push to escape the range, only for it to gap back down into the range again on the morning of the 15th. There are definitely still intraday trends present, they're just not very strong. All in all, a pretty flat, uneventful week for Tesla. Over the 5 trading days, TRND Bot signaled a total of 32 trades on Tesla, an average of 6.4 trades a day. This is similar to the first week's average of 5.5 a day. Of the 32 trade signals, 10 trades resulted in a loss and 22 resulted in profit, a 68.75% win rate overall, the best we've seen yet. This is an enormous increase of 13.75% win rate from last week. By looking at the price action of Tesla, you wouldn't necessarily expect this high win rate due to how uneventful Tesla looked and how relatively flat it was. The previous week had sharper moves up and down, which I think means further apart stop losses and profit targets, so I suspect the extraordinary win rate of this week was due to how slowly Tesla moved. This week's data is a good indicator that TRND Bot can still perform well when the market isn't moving very much or very quickly. The outcome of these signals were 47% hit profit target 1 or better, 47% were closed for either profit or loss due to a signal change, 6% were closed for either profit or loss at the end of the day, and like last week, 0% hit their stop loss. Last week, only 37% of signals hit profit target 1 or better, so 47% this week is a big improvement. This week, the average loss was $120, the average profit of the profit target 1 strategy was $189, and the average profit of the 50/50 strategy was $215. Like last week, we're continuing the theme of the average loss being about half of the expected loss at the stop loss, which makes sense considering so many trades are closed due to a signal change and no trades have stopped out yet. The difference in average return of the two strategies was much less this week, likely due to Tesla not making many big moves in either direction, meaning trades hit their second profit target less frequently. Despite Trend's improved win rate trading Tesla this week, the average loss actually went up. But unlike with the SPY, the average profit actually went down. I suspect this is also due to Tesla moving more slowly this week. The actualized reward to risk ratios were 1.57 to 1 for the profit target 1 strategy and 1.79 to 1 for the 50-50 strategy. I'm pretty surprised because both were around 2 to 1 last week, so this is a pretty noteworthy decrease for both strategies. However, these numbers aren't necessarily bad just because they're lower. With such a high win rate, anything above 1.5 to 1 or even 1 to 1 is still pretty good. I am interested in seeing what the final actualized reward to risk ratios come out to be, given how different they've been week to week. When looking at the time of day data, the results tell a surprisingly different story than last week. Both weeks had more signals earlier in the morning than the rest of the day, which is to be expected due to the higher volatility. However, the spikes in win rate occurred at slightly different times. The win rate for the first hour is just slightly higher than last week, but the second hour, 10:30 to 11:30, is opposite of the previous week's data. This week, we had the lowest win rate at this time, but last week, this hour had a 100% win rate, and I hypothesized it was due to the volatility of the market decreasing around that time of day. This week, the period of time with the highest win rate was shifted ahead to 11:30 to 1:30 instead. It's clear my previous hypothesis doesn't explain the full picture, but I don't yet have enough data to imagine what exactly may have caused this. There definitely wasn't enough of a difference in price action to explain this difference in Trend's performance, so I'm interested to see how the graph changes in the coming weeks. The one thing that did remain the same over both weeks was the win rate in the last hour of the trading day. Incredibly, Trend has managed to maintain a 100% win rate from 2:30 to 3:30 for 2 weeks straight. For now, it seems the only conclusion we can draw about the time of day is that only the last hour's data from both weeks is in agreement and more testing is needed. That's all the analysis I have for this week. So now for the total profit for the second week of October trading Tesla. By risking $250 at the stop loss using TRND Bot, you would have profited $2,948 using the profit target 1 strategy and $3,414 using the 50-50 strategy. Despite the significant decrease in reward to risk ratios, TRND Bot signals were more profitable this week than last week due to the higher win rate and larger percentage of trades hitting profit target 1 or better. This is an example of how a way higher win rate can offset a lower reward to risk ratio, and is an important reminder that we need to analyze data holistically. Here's a graph of the week's running P&L. Noticeably, Trend profited more consistently day to day on Tesla than on the SPY. And except for the 16th, each day's profit was weirdly almost exactly $500. I'm guessing that the reason the profit was about double on the 16th was because of how clearly defined the 3 trends over the course of the day were, thus leaving less room for fake signals and less of a chance of closing too early into a trend. This concludes the second week of testing TRND Bot. I hope you find this series informative and helpful. If you have any questions about TRND Bot's performance so far, please let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.